So I came here and I looked at the schedule and I saw that I was in the Defending the American Dream panel, and I thought, well, gee, that's great. And then the next thing I thought is, having looked at everything that came before, it sort of was all about laying the groundwork. And I think that's what we've gotten a really great background on why, essentially what we know to be true, that is that, we're basically right in this battle, and the other side has been promoting snake oil. I mean, we've got a lot of the facts and figures out there that we need to go and make the battle, but we haven't quite gotten yet the sort of strategy and tactics of how to go out and win that battle. And I figure I've got 20 minutes. I'll tell you exactly how to win this battle in the next 20 minutes. No problem. Obviously, I can't do that, but I do want to give sort of an overview, a strategy on how to deal with this, and give you something of the political insights I've had in fighting this battle in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do something different was that, I got up and I gave our spiel, and I was very proud of it. We had our billboard campaign and our radio ads and everything else that we did. And we made some serious progress in the transportation debate. But, frankly, most of us, most of the time, don't have access to $300,000 or $400,000 to go out and fight the other guys. And so rather than telling you how smart we were and how cute our ads were and everything else, I want to give you some basics about how to fight this fight, and also show you a couple of the pitfalls that I think we often fall into and how to avoid them. And so the first thing I want you to think about, how many of you were here and saw the Blumenauer presentation? So almost everybody, and most people went on the bus trip, I hope? All right, good. Now, I thought that was just wonderful. So first go on the bus trip and see what we were talking about here. You go, you see these sort of utterly failed projects, right? You look around and, here's mixed-use development, there are no stores. You look at these buildings and you say, God, 1 out of 3 of these apartments maybe has anyone in it. There's only one of these projects that didn't look like it was ready to fall apart, and that was in downtown. And those things, I'll tell you, we don't have light rail yet in the Twin Cities, and people are building condos downtown. It isn't that hard. There are a lot of empty nesters out there. You can do this without light rail. And then you listen to Blumenauer and you see, here's a guy selling snake oil. Right, and one of the things that I think is a real problem for many of us is that, we look at this and the very first thing, our very first reaction is kind of like, anyone watched Saturday Night Live? There was this great Saturday Night Live skit. I didn't agree with it, but a great Saturday Night Live skit where you had Mike Dukakis, Mr. Intellectual up there debating George Bush, and Mike Dukakis gives this long, complicated answer to something. George Bush says, something like, "I don't like that." And Dukakis looks into the camera and says, "I can't believe I'm losing to this guy." All right. Well, that's sort of how I think a lot of us feel when we get into these debates. Is I can't believe we're losing to these guys, right? All it takes is sort of 5 minutes of looking around and realize, sort of a basic grasp of reality to realize that these guys are selling snake oil, right? It's not true. What these guys are saying is not true. And I don't know about you, and I probably am a little more cynical than the average person here, but I actually think that Blumenauer is a liar. I think he knows that it's not true. He's not an idiot. He's clearly not an idiot. He goes out there, he does a great job, he can present these things. If you didn't know that he was a liar, if you just put yourself into the position of being a policymaker, or this guy goes around and sells this stuff to people, and so the Metropolitan Council somewhere will import him in, or some smart 1,000 friends of X will bring him in, and they'll say, well, listen to this guy, and he paints this picture, right? And the reaction that most of us have is, all right, well, this guy's a liar, though. Why is it that he's winning and we're losing? And we have to be aware of the fact that in many cases, they're winning and we're losing, right? We're constantly battling. It's like we're banging our heads against the wall. And, we have to ask, why is that? All right, we have to first recognize what the reality is, which is there are these snake oil salesmen out there. They are perfectly willing to lie, cheat, steal, and do everything else to get their way, and more often than not, they are getting their way. So that's sort of the situation, and if that depresses any of you, I just suggest that you go out, rent Band of Brothers, and realize that people have paid a lot higher price than any of us are going to in order to defend freedom. And really, that's what our job is right now. We're sort of on the front lines of defending freedom in the American way, and we've got a pretty easy task compared to what people have done in the past. We've just got to get bored and frustrated. No one's going to be, actually, I was going to say no one's going to shoot at us, but it turns out that if you're in South Carolina, apparently they do, but, or at least your horses, so. So first I want to answer the question, why is it that we're in this situation where it looks like, at least, we're at substantial disadvantage? And, in order to sort of get a strategic view of this, you have to understand who your opponent is. So who are these guys? Well, first of all, Blumenauer, you saw, he's an elected official, right? They're planners, they're bureaucrats, they're consultants, they're editorialists. Who are these people? They're the establishment, all right? You are fighting sort of the incumbents out there. And this is one of the reasons why, more often than not, they win and you lose. What do they have at their disposal? They've got huge resources, money, tons and tons of money. I mean, in Minneapolis, where we're fighting a commuter rail project, the counties there have what they call regional railroad authorities. There are no railroads, but they have railroad authority, all right? And it's a special taxing district where they can tax you to support the non-existent railroads. And what do they do with that money? Well, they promote railroads. They want to have something to do, right? We're a railroad authority, so damn it, we got to have a railroad. And, so they got millions of dollars. They go out and they promote rail. That is their reason for being. And because they're the establishment, they have de facto credibility. All right? If you're a reporter, think about this. If you're a reporter, someone comes along, I'm a planner, I come from this consulting group, I'm, with the Metropolitan Council or TriMet or something like that, and who are the opponents? It's like, well, I'm Joe Blow. All right? You've got sort of this basic problem where it looks like the cards are stacked against you. And yet, with all that said, first of all, we have to focus on what our task again is, which is, this is the front lines, I think, in the battle for freedom in the United States. We are, as the title of this session says, defending the American dream. And the stakes are huge. Now, what do we have on our side? Well, the most obvious thing is, well, we are right, they are wrong, we've got the truth on our side. That's an incredibly powerful ally. That's something that you have to keep on focusing your mind on. Although, as I'm going to tell you in a minute, if you sort of get stuck on that, if you believe that the truth shall set you free, get used to losing, because the truth isn't enough. And if you doubt me on this, I got in a lot of trouble saying this last time. Philip Langdon came here and he said, well, Dave Strom got up there and said, well, the truth doesn't matter. This is about winning. And that's not what I said. The truth alone isn't enough. If the truth alone were enough, we would have won, right? I mean, you have to sort of focus, remember that fact. But, if the truth were enough, we would have won this battle, and we haven't. Again, depressing, but the truth is a tool. It's an incredibly powerful tool that we have. It's also, by the way, the sort of rock that we can sort of keep on coming back to. It's our anchor. It is what keeps us going when you're sitting there in these planning meetings and you've got these consultants up there visioning and doing all the crap that they do. You have to sort of sit back and remember that we are right, they are wrong, and in the end, this is not a battle just about that. It's about who's visioning, who the good guys are. Again, think again about what we're talking about, the American dream. we are defending the American dream. And this sort of gets me to sort of the most important thing. The biggest challenge that we have to have is, I mean, how many of you got interested in this? Let me ask this question because I know this is true of you. How many of you got interested in this because something stupid was happening in your area? All right? I've got a bad message for you. That's what I am. I've decided, my new job as president is to tell people bad news.
Never be out of work.
Never be out of work, that's right.
That makes you an environmental.
Yes. And the bad message is, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but those stupid projects, as important as they are and everything else, are in the end a distraction for you. If you get into debates with people simply about these things, you are going to get into a he said, she said debate with people. They've got the sort of credibility on their side. I'm the expert, I know these things. You're Joe Blow Schmuck, and you can come back and you can bring all these statistics and everything else. But in the end, the best you would ever be able to do is fight to a standstill. And I'll tell you, you aren't going to fight to a standstill. You may or may not win in a particular battle, but if you focus on these things as simply a debate with the other side about the truth or falsity of their numbers and everything else, you are going to lose. They have the resources, they have the credibility, they have all those things. The one thing, and this is what I want you to focus on, and what's so important is, the one thing they don't have is actually sharing the same values as the people out there. They don't share the American dream. They don't have the American dream. You have the American dream, they have the European nightmare. And that's what you have to focus on. Forget now, I don't want to say forget the light rail project or anything else, but those things, in the end, are skirmishes. In the overall, they're battles in the overall war. The overall war is not this light rail project, that commuter rail project. In the Twin Cities, for instance, we've had Hiawatha light rail, and we fought it, and again, it always sort of survived by a nose or anything else, and we've lost that battle. They're going to open it up. But in the process, we've made utterly clear what this debate is about. It's about the social engineers versus everyone else. And Minnesotans are starting to understand that. And it's amazing. We have, in the process of losing this battle, defined what the war is. And by doing that, eventually, I firmly believe we will win this war, because we have the most powerful idea in the history of the human race, the history of the planet, which is the American dream, the American ideal, freedom, the value of human beings, the value of choice. And they have sort of the value of smart people planning for you. They are pushing in repackaged, very attractive and everything else, European green fascism. That's pretty much what it is. Go back, it's true. Last year I called them pin-headed intellectual fascists, and I'm very proud of that. I got into a lot of trouble, but in fact I thought about it a lot, and that's exactly what they are. They're a bunch of pin-headed intellectual fascists. They believe they know what's right for the rest of us, and they want to impose their view of the world on the rest of us. And if we fight that battle, defending the American dream versus the vision of the European fascists, we win that. That's what the battle is. It isn't over that commuter rail project or that commuter. Our governor, who unfortunately has, he's given up on one of the battles, our commuter rail project, but he did during this gubernatorial election a wonderful thing. He got up and he said, you know what? I don't care whether it's light rail, commuter rail, roads, buses, rickshaws, bikes, I just care about mobility. You know, let's just talk about, you know, mobility, affordability, the American dream. I don't care whether you live in the suburbs, the city, just as long as everybody can do what they want to do with the minimum amount of impact on everyone else. Now, you know, if you sort of sit down and you figure it out, obviously, you know, it turns out to be highways and roads and everything else. But, I mean, how many of you here are really here because you're just absolutely in love with pavement? All right? I mean, you know what? I mean, yeah. Sure, good eye, a great line.
Never gonna get a straight line like that.
I told you it'd be bad, you know? These guys know things, so.
Tell them I know it.
Yes. No, I mean, no,
But
there's.
asphalt, now
Asphalt, all right, you know, I mean, we aren't advocates for cars because, I mean, now some of us love cars, but very few people go out there and say they love pavement or anything like that. I mean, we love these things because they work, right? I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, we're, you know, you know, and we hate light rail, not to, I mean, light rail's kind of cute, right? Kind of neat looking and everything else. The first time I heard about light rail, it sort of looked kind of nice, which is why a lot of people go, yeah, that sounds kind of nice. We played with trains and everything else. What offends us about these things is how stupid they are, right? So, I mean, you know, in the end, you have to drop your focus on, you know, those skirmishes over modes and multimodal or this modal or that. It's just going to get back to what's the bottom line? What are we really trying to throw off? And Randall's done a wonderful job here in talking about home ownership and mobility, right? That's the American dream. It's home ownership, mobility, increasing wealth, access, you know, the ability to go where you want to go, do what you want to do. It sounds like a commercial slogan. I think there is a commercial out there. I think it's for Claritin or something like that. Go where you want to go, do what you want to do. That's the American dream. And, you know, it isn't actually that difficult when you get people focusing on what the other side is talking about for them to sort of start getting that, yeah, they're talking about walkability and this and that and the other thing. But, you know, you just show them a few pictures of what's really happening, and they go, well, yeah, I mean, you just can't get around. You know, oh, geez, you know, when someone says congestion is a sign of vitality and everything else, you know, most people go, well, I hate congestion. And, you know, you start talking about high-density housing and these things, and they start to get what's really sort of underlying it, and the sort of underlying social engineering that's there. And they react. I mean, that, you know, Americans are not stupid. We often like to say, you know, there's nothing more stupid than, you know, democracy. But it's not true. I mean, Americans are pretty bright. They aren't going to sit there and listen to the big debate or anything like that, but they'll sit there, figure out who's on their side, and go with that person. And so your number one goal is to convince them you're on their side. And the other side has done a reasonably good job of that up to now. They're pretty good salesmen for their vision. So we have to become salesmen for the American dream. Not for cars, not for pavement, not for any of those things, for the American dream of home ownership, mobility, more jobs. I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, it is kind of a struggle. It requires a long time to go through these things and constant repetition of a lot of things. Just to give you an idea of how hard it can be at times, you know, we had a transit strike in the Twin Cities, and I said something that I thought a lot of people would like, which is, well, let's consider subsidizing automobiles for lower-income folks, transit-dependent folks, access to jobs and everything else. And I was called a racist, and there's horrible things, and it's kind of like, well, I'm not the one actually saying that people should only be able to get jobs along transit lines. I'm saying give them a car. You know, what is horrible about that? You know, you know, the thing is that the first time, and you get that horrible reaction here, and a lot of people shrink. But actually, if you're just sort of out there consistently, and people look at you and they say, you know, that person's not the crazy person that they say, you start to make real headway. So anyway, I want to break this down into a few insights, and I'm probably going over. I don't know, am I going over?
You got a few insights.
I've got a few insights. I'll try to be sort of break this down. Insight number one is don't get sort of locked into thinking that you have to win a debate here over the facts. The facts matter and everything else, and I've annoyed a couple people, I think, at this, by saying, you know, don't get too focused on this, but, you know, I mean, if Earl Blumenauer's up there, I mean, just look at this, not in terms of all the people, all of us here who are obsessed with these things, but if Earl Blumenauer is there and he gives his whole spiel, and then you get up and you give your whole spiel about why Blumenauer is wrong, he's won that exchange. Because he presented a vision, and you just presented this whole thing about why all the facts behind this vision are wrong. And what do they know? Why should they believe you versus him or anything else like that? You know, so let's just say that they sort of drop out all the facts. What's left over? He's got vision, walkable cities, this and that. So it sounds pretty good. So he's won that debate. And to give you an idea, and you know, he's got his back to me right now, John Charles did a wonderful job of this. You know, and boy, I tell you, I mean, who was not fuming Friday night when Blumenauer was up there? I mean, good. I mean, did you not want to vomit when you listened to that? I mean, it was violent. And, you know, I think everyone sort of had the same reaction, which was, what planet do you live on? And we heard that expressed, what planet do you live on? And we all wanted to say that. But of course, you know, I mean, you get up and you say, what planet do you live on? And everyone goes, holy moly, you know, here's this guy, and he was up there giving this vision. And you're just angry. Well, anger doesn't win. So you have to sort of remember who your audience is. Your audience is sort of average Americans. They don't want to get dragged into some stupid debate about modes of transportation. It's important to be right, but that's not the debate they're interested in. They want to know, what's the future going to look like? Is my life going to be better, or is it going to be worse? What is it that you're advocating? And so we have to sort of go back to, what are we advocating, what are they advocating? American dream, European nightmare. American dream, European nightmare. That's the focus of the debate. That's what we have to keep in mind. I really am running over. Yes. I'm sorry. You know, so I'll wrap things up, and I'm going to go. That's sort of the strategy, first of all. Remember what your real battle is, what the war is. It's the war of ideas, not the war of facts. The facts matter. They're why you're out there promoting the right thing. But think about this. Does Blumenauer give a damn about the truth? Does he? No. Do any of those people who you're fighting give a damn about the truth? Are they ever going to say, oh my God, you're right? You know? I just realized that this transit-oriented development sucks. You know? I mean, do you think for a moment that Blumenauer hasn't looked, I mean, each of those things that we went to look cheap and crappy, right? I mean, you go there, I mean, it may look great in a picture or anything, you go there and they suck. There are no stores. It looks like it's ready to fall apart. You know, I mean, I didn't realize this, but they had to, you know, change the fire codes to build these things. They're so cheap. You know, I mean, it's junk. You think Blumenauer doesn't know that? They don't care about the truth. So they're going to keep on getting up there. If you sort of focus on what's true and what's not about each of the individual things, he's not going to say, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I was wrong. No. I mean, so if you get focused on that, it's just going to be this sort of, well, they have their facts, you have your facts, you know, I don't know. And, you know, if you start handing them, you know, a list of footnotes, I guarantee you no one's going to go check them. So focus on what you can win. You can win the battle of, sort of, the battle of the larger ideas, which is American dream. They want to make housing more expensive. They want to make highways more congested. They want you to be on their schedule, not yours. I mean, think about this. What is the defining thing about transit? It closes down, people can strike, you know, the government runs it. I mean, why on earth do you want anything in your life to be run by the government? No one says, my God, you know, the government is so efficient, you know. And you need to just sort of get people to realize what we're really talking about here. The government running one of the most important aspects of your life. And when people understand that over time, not each individual debate, but over time they see what the choice is, you're going to win that. So one last thing and then I'll get off. And this is tactics. I'm talking about strategy, tactics. And this is, I can sort of put this in 2 words. Show up.
Yeah.
Showing up is the most important thing. Woody Allen said showing up is 90% of life, and he underestimated it. I mean, it's it's like 98. You know, because most of the politicians who push this stuff don't know it from Adam. They don't know anything about this. They have consultants pop up, and they're told, oh, this is so important. And they have the visioning sessions, and they do the polling, and they do it because they think it's popular. So if you go there and you say, I'm very angry, I don't want you to do this, you know, and they hear that enough times, they think it's unpopular, and they don't do it. So just show up. Anyway, that's, I told you it would be something